This video, this video goes out to all those people, young people, middle-aged people, older people, near-death people even, who always felt they wanted to be an artist. And nowadays, it's actually quite easy to be an artist in many different ways. Yeah, there are many different ways one can be an artist these days, but there's a desire among people. I don't know, understand really 100% why, because it usually is a tough life. I mean, to make a living on art is a lot of people get to it and realize, this wasn't maybe such a good idea. But I'm going to tell you how it is, what it takes to be an artist. Well, you got to have the right attire, right? You got to wear, you got to find that, those sort of messed up pants. That helps. That helps. Have the hat. Have the hat. Belong to a clan. I belong to a clan. Barry, do I belong to a clan? Yes, a clan. And I've even made my own logo. I have a logo on my hat. I have a hat. I have a belong to a clan. I wear the pants. Plus, I have, I'm associated with people that agree with me that my work is fabulous. Yes, and you have to have a friend. If this is my friend, I talk to this. We're buddies. No argument from him. I'm an artist. He tells me every day I'm an artist. My blockhead. So get yourself a friend that doesn't argue. And then as you move along, you're going to find that there are people, especially in museums, that say, you're an artist. We want your work on our walls. So you're there. You're there. If those people in museums say, we think your stuff is fabulous, not only that, we're going to give you prizes. And then just to help yourself a little bit, you're going to have to understand something about art history, because yes, there have been people that were quite, and historically speaking, they're quite brilliant. They're considered artists because for whatever reason, they've done stuff that people say that's art. That's a real art. That's they made real art. It's an art. It's right. Like Caravaggio or Michelangelo, or even further back, you might even find that people thought some doofus who blew pigment through their hands on a cave wall was an artist. These are ideas. These are ideas that will help you be an artist. I'm just saying, get the clothes, get the friends that don't argue with you, find the museum directors that'll give you awards for the things that you do. You must remember there is an inclination to look a certain way. And if you don't have enough sticks, if you don't have enough feathers or not enough Photoshop or all those things, you have to adjust yourself so that people can say that's an artist. You have to adjust certain ways and, surround yourself with friends that don't argue. Have the clothes. And I think in history, if you if you study this somewhat, you'll find you're going to get a lot of guidance from people that say, well, if it looks this way, it's got to be art. Like if you are influenced, for example, by someone like Vermeer, that's amazing. If you can produce work that looks like a Vermeer, fucking A, you're probably 99% there. You don't need my advice. Or if you actually look at Cezanne and you make lots of little brushstrokes, or even Vincent van Gogh with lots of little brushstrokes that are very much in a pattern that has a cosmic feeling, that'll be an art for sure. And if you go even further ahead and you look at someone like Pollock, who just flailed like a monkey all over the place, and for some reason at the time, they sort of thought, oh, that guy's a pretty good artist, but, looks kind of weird flailing about with a stick with paint on the end. Or then you have Warhol, and then, even more recent, Basquiat. You can make, like, if you can paint a nice little crown somewhere on your painting, you're probably going to have interest. And it's called expressionism, or it's called popism, or it's called impressionism, or abstract expressionism. And you have a lot of isms. So make sure you're up on the ism. But it doesn't really matter, because if you get awards, you're probably an artist. You're probably an artist. Now, there's one little niggly problem here. I'm going to introduce something that you can be everybody can be an artist. Everybody's an artist now, and it's not a big deal. I've shown, get this and hang around with friends that don't argue too much with you about you. It's like you're just sort of there and you're doing it and you're brilliant, whatever that is, and do the steps. But at some point, and a lot of people, that decide to do the art thing, find after maybe 3 or even 5 years, it's a much harder slog than I thought, and it's much more difficult to stay alive. And then you hang in there for another 5, or you're in there for 10 or 15 years, and now you're getting a bit depressed, and it's not what it was, and you're still working on construction, or you've got like a waiter job and you're 38 or 40, and it's getting a bit harder. And then, you maybe want to throw in the towel, but don't throw in the towel, because I'm saying, no, you can be an artist. Yeah, people look up to artists. I think there's this desire to be part of this holy order of artists, which is just a little bit ahead of the holy order of sacred plumbers. So now I'm going to introduce another subject that actually may be very pertinent to you if you've passed that sort of original test, how far you've gone with your art desire, and you're now maybe even in your 50s, and you're saying to yourself, something's missing for me. Something is missing. What is it that will make me feel like a real artist? Now, that's an interesting proposition. I'm introducing the possibility, not just are you an artist, but there is something within that creates a desire just to be a little bit more, like even original, not just regurgitating somebody else's stuff that's considered to be art. And I think museums are not very pleased by this idea of originality, because they want you to look a certain way. And if you keep that going, you're going to succeed and probably have an easier time of it. But if there's that thing inside that says, well, I can do that stuff, and I can convince the curators and buyers and collectors that this is really a good art that you're doing, there is maybe that inner kind of feeling that, but is it original? Is it brilliant? Is it like a Cézanne? Is it like a Matisse, or whoever you think is fabulous? And I'm going to give you the formula of being not only an artist, but a fabulous artist, and even an artist of originality. Originality in art is very important. Don't underestimate originality. And originality, unfortunately, can't be copied. It's not something you can rehearse. It's dependent on something that has to do primarily with something within inside you that nobody else feels or has or thinks or understands or whatever that is. And I'm going to tell you how to do it. And this is how I've understood through history the people that I admire, the people that have stood out for me that I would say are original. They're not just artists, like a lot of people that are populating the art spheres, the Kuhns and the Damien Hirsts, and all the usual suspects, the brilliant people that aren't really, they're artists. Yes, they're artists. But there's something missing. And they know it's missing, but it's missing. And I'll tell you what it is to put you over the edge to become a brilliant, original artist. And this is the formula. You sit down and you quiet yourself. There are no pressures. There is nothing in yourself, on your mind, in your cosmic consciousness that interferes with the most prescient part of yourself that is all of a sudden connected and is able to identify the time you live in. Like somebody like Warhol, who identified his time beautifully, brilliantly. He glorified the banal. He was the artist that understood we're entering into an age of ignorance and banality. I'm going to capture that. He did it. Or even someone like Jackson Pollock, who flicked his stick on the canvas and created a whole bunch of drips that nobody ever figured, why should I do something as stupid as that? But hey, he was considered original. I wonder why. Because he identified the time. He identified something that had happened before, and he brought his own ingenuity and originality to it. He understood something about the time he lived in, and this is all it takes, people. If you want to be an important artist, all you have to do is identify the time. And now we get to the crux. Now we get to the point. This is, maybe I need to have a little, as an artist, I have a scotch. I like it on ice. The time that we live in, and I'm going to give you now the formula that makes you into a very important artist if you use this formula of identifying the time and what is the time that we live in. And here it is. If you've watched my videos, if you have identified this, you are an artist of originality and brilliance, because there's only a very small handful that have been able to do it. I don't know why, but that's how it is in history. There aren't like hundreds of thousands of brilliant artists who have identified their time in history. It just doesn't seem, I don't know why, but it doesn't work. There's only like 2 or 3 in any century that actually have been able to do that in such a way as to have captured totally the imagination of the entire population and maybe even the cosmos. And the time we live in, what I have called this logo, represents the age of fission. People, we're not in the Enlightenment. We're not in the industrial or information age. We're not in the new age. We are in the age of fission since 1938. And it took me a while to kind of get this. But if you've understood this, your art is going to be original and brilliant. And what created the age of fission, definitively for me, is when a nuclear plant called Fukushima, whichever way you want to pronounce it, blew up. It had 3 focal meltdowns. It was completely proven to have 3 focal meltdowns. They didn't want to admit it, but it happened. So this was an event that will actually accentuate this age. It didn't start with Fukushima. It just accentuates the age we're in, the age of fission. We are in the age of fission. My friend and I have conferred. He has agreed with me. Remember, I told you, you got to have a friend that agrees with you. We live in the age of fission, and if, now seriously, I have to be very serious about this, that if you're producing anything in your life in a day-to-day way that reveals this, exposes this, through your own means of communication, whatever it is, art ultimately, I guess, is communication. And the greatest art has always relied on an attribute that all human beings appear to have. And I don't think psychopaths are born, they're created. It's not genetic. It's like a conditioning thing that happens. It's a denial and a repression of an aspect of our humanity that I call conscience. And if you're a human being who wants to be an artist, a brilliant artist of originality, you allow that conscience to percolate. You let it come up into the areas of yourself that allows you to get in touch with the time we're in and act accordingly. And if we live in an age, as I say, the age of fission, and you have understood that, you are a part of a very elite small group of people. I'm not talking about people who understand it and are in denial. I'm talking about the people who act on their conscience once they know they live in the age of fission and do their work accordingly. And anything you will produce within that realm of awareness and conscience, this will make your art brilliant and original. So if you want to be an artist at this time, you're totally identifying the age we're in, which is what I've said. We live in the age of fission. And I don't need to be the only one who've identified this. You can do it as well. And make your art the most valuable art ever produced in the history of artness, ever. I'm saying ever, because it's the most epic age ever in the history of humanity. Since we discovered how to represent our feelings, our thoughts on a cave wall. It is the most epic age. That makes you an artist.